For 20 years, Hannah brought me breakfast. I never once said thank you. She ran interference with other women for me. She was the buffer between my mom and me, and I just figured that was her job. But then one day, she started looking at me like I was a total stranger. That's when the panic set in, and I started scrambling to get her back. But all she did was, I stared at the resignation letter on my desk. It was printed out, perfectly formatted. The words letter of resignation were in a bold, heavy font that made my eyes ache. Hannah Miller's signature, however, was a confident, looping scrawl, nothing like the quiet, gentle way she usually carried herself. I looked up at her. What is this? Hannah stood there, hands tucked into the pockets of her rain jacket, her face a blank slate. It's exactly what it looks like, Mr. Carter. Her voice was as flat as a dial tone. No, seriously, I said, leaning back in my chair, which let out a loud creak. What's the drama this time? I have a problem. I'm a monster in the morning. Hannah knew this. For years, she'd bring me breakfast, set it on my desk, and slip out of my office without a word. She'd let me crawl out of my own bad mood. Today, though, she'd barged right in and dropped this bomb on my desk. There's no drama, she said. I don't want to work here anymore. It's that simple. I picked up the letter. The edge of the paper felt sharp against my fingers. Reason? I asked. There has to be a reason. Are you unhappy with your salary? Did someone here give you a hard time? She let out a small, humorless laugh. It held zero warmth. Let's just say, I'm tired of taking care of you. I was floored. Hearing those words come out of Hannah's mouth was more unbelievable than hearing the world was ending tomorrow. Ever since we were in diapers, she'd been trailing after me. Liam, your shoelace is untied. Liam, your mom wants you home for dinner. Liam, I know how to do this problem. Let me show you. Liam, breakfast is hanging on your doorknob. For 20 years, that was the soundtrack of my life. I was used to it. Come on, I said, licking my suddenly dry lips. Is this because I forgot your birthday yesterday? It was the first time I'd ever forgotten. I was swamped with work, and it completely slipped my mind. When I remember the next day, I sent her some money on Venmo, but she never accepted it. Hannah just looked at me. There was a look in her eyes I couldn't quite place. It was like she'd been looking at me for 2 decades and had finally seen enough. It has nothing to do with that, she said. I've already been to HR. Today is my last day. She turned and walked toward the door. Hannah, I shot up from my chair. Her hand was on the doorknob. She paused but didn't turn around. If you leave, I heard my own voice, rough and strained. Who's going to get my breakfast? The second the words were out, I knew what a dick I sounded like. But I couldn't take them back. She turned her head, giving me one last look. Liam, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Then I guess you'll starve. The door clicked shut behind her. It wasn't loud, but it landed like a punch to the gut. I stared at the closed door for a long time. My first thought was, she's actually serious. My second thought was, my stomach is starting to hurt. Usually by this time, Hannah would have placed a container of warm oatmeal and a bottle of antacids on my desk. Today, there was only the resignation letter. I yanked open my desk drawer, searching for anything to eat. Empty. Nothing but a few hardened packets of instant coffee. Outside my office, the open plan area was starting to fill up. I could hear the soft clatter of keyboards and muffled conversations. I sat back down and stared at my computer screen. It was black, reflecting my hungover, sleep-deprived face back at me. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. Why isn't Hannah answering her phone? Are you two coming over for dinner tonight? I'm making pot roast. My thumb hovered over the screen. I had no idea what to type. How was I supposed to respond to that? Sorry, Mom. Your future daughter-in-law just dumped me. In her job, my mother would drive straight to the office and skim me alive. I typed out a few words. We're slammed with work, can't make it. She's busy. I hit send. A sharp pain twisted in my gut. I pressed my hand against my stomach, sucking in a breath. When Hannah was around, I took everything for granted. It was as natural as the sun rising or winter being cold. She never complained. Not once. There were even times when a project was going south, and I'd take it out on her. She would just silently take the cold food away, microwave it, and bring it back. Liam, you need to eat, was all she'd say. How the hell did I ever think that kind of patience was normal? My assistant, Kevin, poked his head in. Mr. Carter, the 10 o'clock project meeting. He saw the look on my face and trailed off. What is it? I snapped. Hannah, Ms. Miller, just forwarded me the meeting materials. She said, she's not managing that anymore. Kevin stammered. I got it. I wave him away. We'll start on time. Kevin ducked out of my office like he was escaping a fire. I opened my email. Sure enough, there was a message from Hannah, sent in the middle of the night. The attached presentation was perfectly organized, with key points highlighted in yellow. It was clearer than anything I could have put together myself. The body of the email was empty. Not a single word. She was dead serious about leaving, without so much as a real goodbye. The whole meeting was an exercise in frustration. My team was presenting, but my mind kept drifting. Usually, Hannah would be sitting right next to me. If a number seemed off, she'd gently tap my arm and slide a note over. When she sensed I was losing my patience, she'd give me a light kick under the table. Today, the chair next to me was empty. The guy from marketing was rambling, his presentation a mess of buzzwords, and I didn't hear a single thing he said. All I could see was the look in Hannah's eyes before she left. Empty. There was nothing there. Not even a hint of resentment. Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter? I snapped back to reality. Are you done? The presenter looked nervous. Yes, sir. So about this proposal. I glanced at the slide on the screen. Your user personas are vague, and your distribution channels are all over the place. Do it over. The room went silent. The guy's face went pale. Sir, this. Ms. Miller looked this over before, and she said, Well, I'm looking at it now. I cut him off. Is that a problem? No one said a word. When the meeting was over, everyone scurried out of the room like their lives depended on it. I was left alone with the ghost of a headache. The air felt thick and suffocating. Kevin lingered behind. Director, he said quietly, you didn't have breakfast, did you? I could order something for you. I waved him off. I had no appetite. Besides, with Hannah gone, I'd be eating takeout every day from now on. I had to get used to it. On the way back to my office, I passed her old desk. It was completely cleared out. Spotless. Even the little succulent she kept was gone. She used to say staring at a computer all day was bad for your eyes and that you needed more green plants around. She'd even try to put one in my office. I told her it was clutter and threw it out. She didn't speak to me for 3 days after that. Eventually, the plant reappeared on her own desk. At the time, I figured she'd just gotten over it. Looking back now, maybe that was when she started to pull away piece by piece. I was just too blind to see it. I somehow managed to drag myself through the rest of the day. By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, the pain in my stomach was getting worse. I grabbed my phone, my thumb hovering over Hannah's contact. What'd I even say if I called her? Why didn't you bring me breakfast? Why did you just walk out on me? None of it felt right. My finger wouldn't press the call button. In the end, I shoved the phone back in my pocket and headed for the parking garage. I had to go find her. This had all happened too fast, and I needed answers. Waiting at a red light, I noticed a 7-Eleven on the corner. On a strange impulse, I pulled over and went inside. After wandering the aisles, I grabbed a container of instant oatmeal that looked like the brand she used to buy. At the checkout, the cashier asked, Want me to heat that up for you? I paused for a second. Yeah, please. As the microwave hummed, I stared at the rotating container, feeling like a complete idiot. I got back in my car with the scalding hot oatmeal and tossed it on the passenger seat. Then I drove straight to Hannah's apartment complex. Her lights were off. I stayed in the car, not sure what I'd even say if I went up. I rolled the window down and lit a cigarette, not smoking it, just watching the ash grow longer and fall away. Hannah hated the smell of smoke, so I rarely smoked around her. On the rare occasion I did, stressed out from work, she'd just quietly open all the windows and bring me a glass of water with honey in it. Now, my car's ashtray was overflowing, and there was no one to bring me a glass of water. I waited for over half an hour. The oatmeal on the seat next to me grew cold. Hannah never came home. I started the car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, her dark window got smaller and smaller, disappearing into a tiny indistinct point, just like the knot of confusion tightening in my chest. 5. The next morning, I woke up because my stomach was eating itself. It felt like someone was dragging a serrated knife across my insides. I grabbed my phone to check the time. The screen was clean. No unread messages from Hannah. No routine breakfast is at the door text. I threw on some clothes and bought a breakfast burrito from a stand outside my building. It was so greasy it made my stomach turn, but I forced it down anyway. When I got to the office, Kevin was waiting for me by the elevators, looking uneasy. Director, he said in a low voice, we have a new boss. She's overseeing our department and marketing. A rock sank in my stomach. Who? She was appointed from corporate, Kevin said, avoiding my eyes. Her last name is Miller. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, shattering what little hope I had left. Inside the main conference room, there was a woman in a sharp, black blazer, her back to me. I knew that silhouette. It was Hannah. She turned, her eyes scanning the room, and her gaze rested on my face for a fraction of a second. There was no more recognition in her expression than if she'd been looking at a chair. The CEO was beaming. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Hannah Miller, our new vice president of product. From now on, both the engineering and marketing divisions will report to her. The room was filled with eyes darting back and forth between Hannah and me, like they were watching a tennis match. Everyone in the company knew about Hannah and me. And now, the woman who had walked out on me a day ago was my boss. Mr. Carter, she said, her voice cool and professional. I'm going to need an explanation for the delay on the new version launch. I stared at her, trying to find a flicker of something else in her eyes. Anything. There was nothing. It was all business. We've hit a few technical roadblocks, I said. We're working on it. What roadblocks specifically? She pressed. Is it a design flaw? A scheduling conflict? A resource issue? I felt a surge of anger. She knew exactly what my team had been dealing with lately. Ms. Miller, I said, putting a slight edge on her new title. I can brief you on the details privately after the meeting. She nodded, not pushing any further. But her eyes said it all. I'll be waiting for that explanation. After the meeting, I hung back, hoping to walk out with her. But she was already halfway down the hall, laughing about something with the CEO. She didn't even glance in my direction. 6. I spent the rest of the day in a foul mood. Everything and everyone was getting on my nerves. During an afternoon code review, I tore into one of our lead architects. Is this a joke? I tossed his printouts onto the table. If this doesn't make the user's app crash and burn, I'll change my name. The guy's face flushed red, then went pale. Director, this approach was previously approved by Ms. Miller. Don't you dare say Miss Miller to me again. I slammed my hand on the table. Who's in charge of this team? Her or me? The room went dead silent. The only sound was the hum of the air conditioning. I was breathing heavily, throbbing pain starting in my temples. Meeting's over. I waved my hand dismissively. After everyone had filed out, I sat alone in the conference room, staring at the chaotic diagrams on the whiteboard. I felt a sudden, crushing wave of exhaustion. My phone buzzed. It was my mom again. Why didn't you tell me Hannah got a promotion? Bring her over for dinner tonight. I want to congratulate her. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mom, I'm busy. I'll call you back. Did you do something to upset her again? She asked, her tone immediately suspicious. I'm telling you, Liam, if you let that girl get away, I will break both your legs. I hung up. Break my legs? She was already so far above me, I couldn't even reach her. Working late that night, I instinctively yelled out to the main office, Hannah, could you grab me a cup of? I cut myself off. Several of my team members looked up from their desks, their expressions a mixture of pity and confusion. Kevin quickly stood up. I'll get it for you, Director. I just shook my head. Never mind. I walked to the break room myself and poured a glass of cold water, chugging it down. It only made my stomach hurt more. The light was still on in Hannah's office. Through the glass wall, I could see her in a meeting with the marketing team. Her fingers flew across her laptop keyboard as she occasionally nodded. The light caught her profile, making her look like a stranger. I leaned against the water cooler, watching her for a long time. Eventually, her eyes drifted up and met mine through the glass. Her face was completely neutral. Then, she reached for a remote on her desk and pressed a button. The blinds slowly lowered, closing her off from my view. 7. That closing blind felt like a slap across the face. My cheeks burned. The cold water in the plastic cup I was holding had become warm from my grip. Walking back to my desk, I overheard 2 of the new hires whispering in the break room. Did you see that? Carter was just staring into the VP's office. Think he regrets it now. He should. What was he thinking? Now she's his boss. He totally blew it. I cleared my throat. The 2 of them scattered like frightened mice. I sat down on my computer, but I couldn't focus on a single line of code. All I could picture was the smooth, final motion of those blinds closing. decisive, clean, leaving no room for hope. Kevin tiptoed over and placed a box of antacids on my desk. "You're not looking so good, Director." I glanced at the box, then at him. "It's from Ms. Miller," Kevin said quietly. "She was on her way out and saw you holding your stomach. She asked me to give this to you." A tiny ember of hope flickered to life in my chest. What were her exact words? She just said. Kevin scratched his head. "Give this to Mr. Carter." "That's it. That's it." The ember fizzled out. I waved Kevin away and stared at the box of medicine. It was the same brand I always used. She had even placed it on my desk at the exact same angle she always did. I popped 2 of the tablets and swallowed them dry. The chalky bitterness made me cringe. Henna used to always have tea with honey ready for me. Not anymore. 8. All my communication with Hannah was now through email. She approved workflows and pointed out flaws with ruthless efficiency. I revised proposals and sent them back, and she'd accept them without comment. It was so professional you couldn't find a single fault. She just never spoke a single private word to me again. On Friday night, the entire department stayed late to hit a deadline. I ordered pizzas for everyone. As we were eating, Hannah emerged from her office. "Ms. Miller, have some pizza." Someone called out. She smiled politely. "No, thanks. You all enjoy." Her eyes passed over me without even a fractional pause. She just grabbed her bag and left. The slice of pizza in my hand suddenly tasted like cardboard. Around 10, we finally finished. I was the last one to leave. As the elevator descended to the parking garage, my phone rang. It was my best friend, Jake. "Dude, beers." The usual spot. "Now." I rubbed my temples. "Just got done with work. I'm dead." "Don't give me that." Jake laughed on the other end. "Hannah's not around to keep you in line, right?" I paused. "Did she tell you?" "Tell me what?" Jake sounded confused. "I'm just saying you two are always joined at the hip." "She didn't work late with you." I leaned back against my driver's seat, staring at my reflection in the windshield. "We broke up." There was a 3-second silence on the other end. "The hell did you just say?" "She didn't tell you." I managed a hollow laugh. "I report to her now." Jake let out a string of curses. "Liam, you son of... You're unbelievable. Are you coming or not?" I asked him. "If not, I'm going home." "I'm coming," he yelled. "Don't you move a damn inch." Half an hour later, Jake and I were sitting at our usual dive bar. He was staring at me like I was an exhibit at the zoo. "So," he said, taking a huge bite of a buffalo wing. "Hannah is your boss now." I grunted in affirmation and took a long pull from my beer. "And you two are done." And she didn't even bother to tell me. I grunted again. Jake slammed a chicken bone down on the table. "Liam, I'm not gonna lie, man. You had this coming." I looked up at him. "We've all seen how Hannah treated you for the last 20 years. We all saw it," he said, his voice rising. "And what did you do? You acted like some kind of king. You really thought she was your damn maid." I stared down at my beer, saying nothing. "And look at you now," Jake sneered. "She finally had enough and walked. Now you're screwed, huh?" I didn't tell her to leave. I mumbled, my voice hoarse. "She just... Why shouldn't she leave?" Jake cut me off. "I would have left years ago. Who could put up with your crap for 2 decades? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. He was right. Why shouldn't she? Just because she loved me. I've been cashing in on that excuse for 20 years. And it seemed my account was finally overdrawn. 9, I drank too much. Jake eventually stopped yelling and just started sighing. "Liam," he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder, "listen to me. A woman like Hannah. You won't find another one. Not in a million years." I slumped over the table, staring at the empty beer bottles. "I know. You don't know Jack," he fired back up. "If you knew, you wouldn't have driven her away." I had no defense. Jake called me an Uber and shoved me into the back seat. "Where to?" he asked. "Your place or Hannah's?" I closed my eyes. She took her key back. Jake paused, then burst out laughing. "Good, you totally deserve that." When the car pulled up to my apartment building, he hauled me out. "Liam," he said before he left, "if you want to get her back, you need to show some actual effort. You can't just expect her to do everything for you like you used to." I stood in the cold night air, watching his taillights disappear. Effort. The word felt foreign. I went upstairs and opened the door to a dark, empty apartment. There was no life in it. When Hannah was here, she always left a small nightlight on in the hall. She said I worked late too often, and she didn't want me fumbling for the light switch in the dark. Now, there was nothing. I collapsed onto the sofa, my stomach churning. I pulled out my phone and, out of habit, opened Hannah's Instagram profile. A blank screen. No posts, no stories. You have been blocked by this user. I stared at her profile picture for a long time. It was a photo of sunset. When had she changed it? I had no idea. Then I spent the weekend in a fog. Takeout containers piled up by the door. On Monday morning, I was woken up by a call from my building's superintendent. The downstairs neighbor was complaining about a water leak from my apartment. I stumbled out of bed to find the bathroom flooded. A pipe under the sink had burst. I called a plumber, and by the time everything was fixed, it was nearly noon. I rushed to the office. In the elevator, I ran into Hannah. It was just the two of us. She was wearing a light gray blouse, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, revealing the elegant line of her neck. "Morning," I said. She stared at the floor numbers. "Mr. Carter, you're 3 hours late." "Pipe burst in my apartment," I said, running a hand through my messy hair. "Just got it fixed." She didn't respond. The silence in the elevator was suffocating. I tried again. "Thanks for the antacids the other day." "You're welcome," she said, her tone clinical. "Employee health is crucial for project timelines, right?" I shut my mouth. The elevator doors opened. She walked out first, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. I followed behind her and caught a faint, pleasant scent of her perfume. It wasn't the one she used to wear. She'd changed that, too. Kevin was waiting anxiously outside my office. "Director, we have a problem." My stomach dropped. "What now?" The staging server database crashed. We might have lost user data. I cursed under my breath and sprinted toward the server room. Hannah was already there, speaking calmly with our lead engineers. "When was the last backup?" she asked. "Last Wednesday." An engineer said, sweat beading on his forehead. "If we restore from that, we lose almost a week's worth of data." Hannah turned and saw me. "Mr. Carter, your solution." I quickly assessed the server status. "Give me 2 hours." She glanced at her watch. "You have one. I want services restored by 11 o'clock. "That's impossible," one of the engineers blurted out. "We need at least 3 hours." Hannah looked at him, her voice unwavering. "Then find a way to make it possible." She turned back to me. "Any objections?" I gritted my teeth. "No." "Good," she nodded. "Whatever resources you need, you come directly to me." She turned to coordinate with the other teams on damage control. I took a deep breath and barked at my team. "You heard her. Let's move." 11 for the next hour. My team and I worked like madmen. The room was a chaotic symphony of frantic typing and shouted commands. Hannah never left. She stood by the door, watching, never interrupting, never asking for updates. I saw her take a few calls, her voice low and controlled. At 10:57 a.m., I entered the final command. "Try it now." An engineer with trembling hands launched the client. Login successful. Data intact. The entire room erupted in cheers. I slumped back in my chair, my shirt completely soaked with sweat. Hannah walked over and handed me a bottle of water. "Good work." I took it, my fingertips brushing against hers. They were cool. "It's my job," I said. For once, she didn't argue. "Write up a post-mortem report," she said. "I want to focus on preventative measures." "Got it." She started to leave. "Hannah," I called out. She stopped but didn't turn around. "Thanks," I said. The water was the brand she always used to buy for me. She walked out without another word. Kevin came over, whispering, "Director, you should have seen it." Ms. Miller just tore into the IT and operations heads, said the monitoring alerts were useless and that if you hadn't caught it in time, the fallout would have been catastrophic. I froze. She yelled at them. "Read them the riot act," Kevin said, looking impressed. I've never seen her that angry before. I gripped the water bottle, a strange feeling swirling in my chest. Was she defending me? Or was she just protecting her project? I couldn't tell the difference. 12. I took the incident report seriously, outlining every possible risk and proposing a detailed improvement plan. As soon as I finished, I emailed it to Hannah. 5 minutes later, she replied, "Received. The follow-up meeting is moved to 3 p.m. to discuss your proposal." I stared at the sentence. Not even a thanks or a good. At 3 o'clock, Hannah walked into the meeting room right on time. She asked me to present my plan. As I spoke, she was looking down at her phone the entire time. I felt a surge of irritation. Was she even listening to something this important? When I finished, she put her phone down. Page 3, line 7, she said, looking directly at me. Your proposed automated failover system. What's the trigger? I was taken aback. Server load thresholds. And the basis for setting those thresholds, she pressed. Have you accounted for sudden traffic spikes? She had me. I hadn't thought that part through in detail. And on page 5, your backup strategy, she continued. You mentioned incremental backups. What's the frequency? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. This proposal is rejected, she said, pushing the printout back across the table. The room was silent. I felt like I'd just been dressed down in front of my own team. Meeting adjourned, she said. Everyone filed out, leaving the two of us alone. I remained seated. You have a problem with this? She asked, gathering her things without looking up. You weren't even listening, I said. You were on your phone the whole time. She finally looked at me, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. Liam, she said, I was reviewing your code, commit from this morning. She turned her phone screen toward me. It showed the script I had written to fix the database. To save time, she said, pointing to a specific line, you hard-coded a value right here. If we ever scale the servers, this will break everything. I was speechless. She stood up and walked to the door. Be more professional, Mr. Carter. The door closed, leaving me alone in the conference room, my face burning with shame. 13 I rewrote that report 3 times, poring over every last detail until it was bulletproof. When I sent it to Hannah, she replied with a single word, approved. I stared at the screen, and for once, I had nothing to be angry about. That afternoon, the engineering department had a team-building event, a basketball game. To my surprise, Hannah showed up. She was dressed in athletic gear, her hair in a ponytail. She looked different. Ms. Miller, you play? Someone asked. She smiled. I played in college. It's been a while. I nearly choked. I had known her for 20 years and had no idea she'd played college basketball. The game started, and I realized she wasn't kidding. Her movements were sharp, her positioning flawless. She held her own against the younger guys in my department without breaking a sweat. Then, it was my turn to guard her. She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something new in her eyes. A challenge. Don't go easy on me, Director, she said, lowering her stance. Before I could even react, she faked me out, drove past me to the hoop, and scored an easy layup. The whole court cheered. You're slipping, Director, she said, jogging back with a light sheen of sweat on her face. Watching her, the confidence, the grace, I felt a pang of something sharp in my chest. There were so many sides to her I had never bothered to see. All I had ever seen was the girl who brought me breakfast. After the game, the team went out for dinner. Hannah was pulled into a booth with a group of female colleagues, while I sat at another table with my guys. The mood at my table was a bit subdued. Director, one of the interns said quietly, Ms. Miller is amazing at basketball. Yeah, I said, taking a sip of beer. She also announced a new TechShare initiative for next week, he added. She wants everyone to sign up to present. At what? Cross-departmental knowledge sharing, the intern explained. She said engineers can't afford to work in a silo. I glanced over at her table. She was laughing at something someone had said, her profile soft in the restaurant's warm lighting. She looked like a completely different person from the fierce competitor on the basketball court. Kevin nudged me. Director, aren't you going to go over and have a drink with her? I shot him a glare. You know, as a peace offering, Kevin whispered. Everyone's watching. I hesitated, then picked up my glass and walked over to her table. Ms. Miller, I said, standing beside her. Her table fell silent. All eyes were on us. Hannah looked up, her smile fading slightly. Can I help you? I'd like to propose a toast, I said, trying to sound formal. To thank you for your support of the engineering department. She looked at me for a long moment, not moving. Mr. Carter, she said, her voice quiet but clear enough for everyone to hear. I'm just doing my job. It has nothing to do with you. I stood there, my glass raised, completely frozen. I could feel the collective intake of breath from the people around us. However, she said, suddenly standing up and picking up her own glass. Since you're being so polite. She clinked her glass against mine. It made a soft, final sound. Cheers, she said, and downed the entire drink in one go, showing me the empty glass. You can drink as you please. Then she sat back down and immediately resumed her conversation with the person next to her, as if I were just any other subordinate who had come to pay respects. I stood there for a second, then drained my own glass. The alcohol burned a path from my throat straight to my stomach. That's when I finally understood. Hannah wasn't playing hard to get. She was genuinely, completely done with me. One night, I was working until midnight when a torrential downpour started. I was standing at the entrance of our office building, trying to get an Uber on my phone. There were over 50 people in the queue ahead of me. Hannah came out of the elevator and glanced at me. "No umbrella?" she asked. "Forgot it," I said. She paused for a moment, then pulled a small, collapsible umbrella from her bag. "Here." I was stunned. "What about you?" "My ride's almost here," she said, looking at her phone. I took the umbrella. The handle was still warm from her hand. "Thanks." She didn't reply, just walked to the edge of the covered entrance to wait. In the downpour, I saw the headlights of her car approaching. I opened the umbrella and stepped out into the rain. I heard her car door open and close, the sound swallowed by the storm. I glanced back just in time to see the red taillights of her Uber disappear around the corner. The umbrella was small. One of my shoulders was completely soaked. After that, I tried to ask Hannah out to dinner. She said she was busy. I tried to ask her out for coffee. She said she had a meeting. She was clearly avoiding me. On Friday, after work, I cornered her in the parking garage. "We need to talk," I said. She glanced at her car keys. "There's nothing to talk about. Just 10 minutes. She was silent for a moment. "Fine. Get in." The car smelled like her, that new perfume she wore. "What do you want to talk about?" she asked, staring straight ahead. "Can we?" I hesitated. "Can we go back?" She laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Go back where?" "To how things were." "Liam," she said, finally turning to look at me. "Do you think I was happy back then?" I couldn't answer. "I wasn't," she said. "I spent 20 years pretending. I can't do it anymore." "I never asked you to pretend. You never asked me to be myself, either." The silence in the car was deafening. "I get it," I said, reaching for the door handle. "But I don't want to go back," she said suddenly. My hand froze. "Liam," her voice was soft now. We could move forward." I turned to look at her. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, her eyes locked on mine, "that I'm trying to move forward too. You have to wait for me." Wait for me. It wasn't a no. It was a wait. "How long?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "It could be a while, or it might not be." "I'll wait," I said, without a moment's hesitation. I started bringing her breakfast. Sometimes she ate it, sometimes she didn't. I remembered her birthday and booked a table at her favorite restaurant. She came, but insisted we split the bill. At the office, we were still supervisor and subordinate. But outside of work, we started texting occasionally. We talked about work and sometimes other things. One day, she forwarded me a funny meme. I stared at my phone for a long time. It was the first non-work-related thing she had shared with me since she'd left. The progress was slow, but it was there. It felt like repairing a crashed system. You had to apply the patches one by one, carefully. You couldn't rush it. One night, she called me. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Working," I said. "Writing code." "Oh, what's up?" "Nothing," she said, her voice sounding a little strained. "Just checking in." I knew something was wrong. "Where are you?" "Home." "Have you been crying?" "No." I put down my keyboard. "I'm coming over." "You don't have to. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I grabbed my keys and left. When I got to her apartment, her eyes were red, just as I'd suspected. "I got into a fight with my mom," she said. I breathed a sigh of relief. At least it wasn't about me. She let me in and got me a glass of water. We sat on the couch and watched TV without saying a word. But it was comfortable. It wasn't like before, where I always felt the need to fill the silence. When I was leaving, she walked me to the door. "Liam." "Yeah, thanks for coming over." "Anytime." I looked down at her. She was looking up at me. We were standing so close I could count her eyelashes. But I didn't kiss her. It wasn't time yet. "See you tomorrow," I said. "See you tomorrow," she replied. At the company's annual holiday party, Hannah won the Manager of the Year award. She went on stage to accept it, looking absolutely radiant. I stood in the crowd, my chest swelling with pride, and a little bit of fear. I had almost lost someone this incredible. During the reception, people swarmed her, wanting to offer their congratulations. She smiled and accepted their toasts, but drank sparingly. One of our clients, an older executive, was being particularly persistent, his hand lingering a little too long on the small of her back. I walked over and stood between them. "Mr. Davison," I said, raising my glass with a smile. "Allow me to offer a toast." The man looked annoyed. "I was just speaking with Ms. Miller." "She's a lightweight," I said smoothly. "I'll drink on her behalf." Hannah tugged gently at my sleeve from behind. "Mr. Carter," the executive sneered, "on what authority are you drinking for her?" The entire party seemed to go quiet, all eyes on us. I put down my glass. "I'm pursuing her," I said, my voice steady and clear enough for everyone to hear. "Is that authority enough for you?" Dead silence. Behind me, I heard Hannah's breath catch. The executive mumbled an excuse and walked away. I turned to face her. Her cheeks were flushed, whether from the wine or something else, I couldn't tell. "Let's go," I said. "I'll take you home." She didn't argue. She just came with me. She was quiet on the drive home, staring out the window. "Are you mad?" I asked. "No." "Then what I did back there?" "Liam," she cut me off. "Were you serious?" "Yes." "Not just because you were trying to make a point?" "No." She went quiet again. When we got to her building, I parked the car. "Anna," I said. She turned to look at me, her eyes shining in the dim light of the car. "I know I was a jerk before," I said. "Yes, you were. And I know that actions speak louder than words." "They do." "I'm going to change," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "It might take time, but I'm going to change. You just have to give me a chance." She looked at me for a long time. "Liam," she said, "I'm scared." "Of what?" "I'm scared this is just a phase for you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm scared I'll get used to this, and you'll go back to how you were before." A sharp pain went through my chest. "I won't," I said, taking her hand. "This time, it's my turn to take care of things." She didn't pull her hand away. "I'll trust you one more time," she said. "Just once." I nodded. "Okay." She got out of the car and walked into her building. At the door, she turned and gave me a small wave. I waved back. I watched her walk up the stairs and saw her apartment light turn on. I sat in my car for a long time, a sliver of hope finally breaking through the darkness. For my mom's birthday, I brought Hannah home. My mom was so happy she nearly cried, and she cooked a feast. "Hannah, dear, eat up." My mom kept piling food onto her plate. "You're too thin." "Thank you, Mrs. Carter." "Still calling me Mrs. Carter?" my mom said, raising an eyebrow. Hannah blushed. I quickly stepped in. "Mom, don't pressure her." "You be quiet." My mom shot me a glare. "This is all your fault." I held up my hands in surrender. Yes, it's all my fault." After dinner, Anna helped my mom with the dishes. I leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching them. They were laughing and talking, just like they used to, but it was different. Before, Hannah was the prospective daughter-in-law. Now she was just Hannah, herself. My mom cornered me later. "You be good to her this time." "I will. If you lose her again," I'm serious, "I will break your legs." "I won't lose her again." When Hannah came out of the kitchen, her hands were still wet. I handed her a towel. She dried her hands and then looked at me, a smile playing on her lips. "What are you smiling about?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "I just think this is nice." "What's nice?" "This," she said. "This. Simple, real. It was nice. We went grocery shopping together, like any normal couple. She picked out the vegetables, and I pushed the cart. "This shrimp looks fresh," she said. "Let's get it. Do you want it steamed or sautéed?" "Either way is fine." She rolled her eyes at me. "Can't you have an opinion for once? Anything you make is delicious." She laughed. "Are you always this smooth now?" "It's the truth." We got home with bags of groceries. She put on an apron and started cooking. I leaned against the kitchen doorway and watched her. The way she chopped vegetables, the confident way she handled the pan. It was all so familiar, yet I had never truly paid attention before. "Need any help?" I asked. "Nope," she said. "Just stay out of my way." So I kept watching. The hum of the exhaust fan, the sizzle of food in the pan, the smell of garlic and spices. This was what a home felt like, something I had completely ignored for years. "Liam, hand me a plate," she said over her shoulder. I passed one to her. Our fingers brushed as she took it. Her skin was warm. "Anna," I said. Are we back together?" She turned off the stove and faced me. "What do you think?" "I don't know." I said honestly. "You're the boss." She walked over and stood in front of me. Then I guess we are. And then she stood on her toes and gave me a quick, soft kiss. It's official, she said, a playful glint in her eye. I just stood there, stunned. It wasn't until she turned back to the stove that my brain caught up. I wrapped my arms around her from behind. Say it again, I whispered. Say what? That we're back together. She laughed. We're back together, Liam. Good. I rested my chin on her shoulder. Does this mean I have to cook for you every day now? She asked. Nope. Why not? Because it can't always be you, I said. I'm going to learn too. She tilted her head to look at me. Really? Really? Then you can start by doing the dishes tonight. Deal. Anything. As long as she was here. We moved back in together, but it was different this time. Before, she took care of me. Now, we took care of each other. One night, my stomach problems flared up again. I was doubled over in pain, breaking out in a cold sweat. Hannah was frantically searching through the medicine cabinet. Where are the antacids? She asked, her voice tight with worry. Ran out. I gritted out. It's fine, it'll pass. She grabbed her coat and ran out the door. It was midnight, but she went to a 24-hour pharmacy to get me medicine. When she came back, her hair was damp from the rain. Here, she said, handing me the pills and a glass of water. I looked at her damp hair, and my heart ached. Hannah, I said. What? Marry me. She froze. I'm not just saying it. I rushed to add. I've thought about it. I want to marry you. She just stared at me, her eyes wide. Will you? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. After a long moment, she nodded. Yes. Just that one word. I pulled her into my arms, holding her so tight I could feel her heartbeat. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry I made you wait so long. And thank you, she whispered back, her voice muffled against my shoulder, for finally catching up. Outside, the rain fell steadily. Inside, the light was warm and bright. We held each other like two travelers who had finally found their way home. 20 years of being kids together. A few months of being apart. It was all worth it for a lifetime of this. I often think about that morning she slammed the door, telling me I could starve for all she cared. Now, I'm the one who brings her breakfast every morning. Thanks, honey, she'll say. You're welcome. I'll smile back. Sometimes Jake comes over for dinner and still gives me a hard time. Man, you are so whipped. I'll just pass him the bread basket. Shut up and eat. Hannah will be in the kitchen, cutting up fruit. I'll watch her, and my heart will feel so full it could burst. What are you looking at? Jake will ask, nudging me. My wife. Gross. Maybe it is, but I don't care. One day, while cleaning out some old boxes, I found it. Hannah's resignation letter. The bold font was still just as jarring. I showed it to her. Remember this. She glanced at it. Of course. What? I'm going to frame it, I said, and hang in my home office. Why would you do that? As a reminder, I said, so I never, ever lose you again. She just smiled. Whatever you want. And I actually did it. I framed it and hung it on the wall right across from my desk. I see it every single day. It reminds me to cherish what I have. Some things you only appreciate after you've lost them. Some people, if you let them go, they're gone forever. I was just lucky enough to get a second chance. Liam, Hannah called from the other room. Dinner's ready. Coming. I put down the frame and walked out to the dining room. The sun was streaming through the window, and she was standing by the table, smiling at me. This was the moment I had waited for, and it was finally here. Thank God it was finally here.